It's a scam that happens really regularly and it's really easy to spot. At Sell Your Motors, we pride ourselves on our honesty and integrity. You bring your car to one of our locations, in 30 minutes we'll give you a quote. If you like it, we'll buy it there and then, in cash. And if you don't, no hard feelings. But over the decades of working in this industry, we have come across some unbelievable stories. And we want to expose some of those stories in this series, Shocking Stories from Unsuspecting Sellers. Welcome to episode 2 of Shocking Stories from Unsuspecting Sellers. If you missed the first episode, you can either click the link here if you're on YouTube or go down to the comments and you'll see the link there for the first episode. In this episode, we're going to talk about a story that we've heard literally scores of times. It's a scam that happens really regularly and it's really easy to spot. It starts with somebody who's emigrating, and that happens every day in the United Arab Emirates. Somebody's leaving the country, they've got a new job in another country, or they're going home to their native land, and they need to sell their car. You see, the last couple of weeks in Dubai or in any of the Emirates is always the most hectic. It's the time when you need your car the most, and so mostly people are reluctant to sell their car until the very last minute. But at the same time, they need the cash, or they need to pay down the loan that they took to buy the car in the first place. This story happens with, let's say, Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith is moving back to the UK, and she advertises her car for sale, and she gets a few offers, and the car is, let's say it's worth 150,000 dirhams. So she's getting nowhere near the offer until suddenly someone comes to the door and says, yeah, I'll pay 150,000 for this car. It's in good condition, and I'm a dealer actually. So why don't you keep the car until the day that you're traveling, and then I'll take you to the airport, and then I'll take the car from you. And she says, wow, that's perfect. That's ideal. He says, in the meantime, let's start going through all the paperwork. And so that's what they do. There's a couple of weeks before she travels. She's got the use of her car. She's driving around to work and sorting out all of her administration. At the same time, he's going with her to the RTA to change the license, change all of the details as required to sell the car. And then the day comes when she's finally traveling and she's ready to collect the money from the dealer. And they say, well, listen, let's meet at the airport. I know that you're traveling, so we'll meet you there so that we can collect the car from the airport and you can use the car to get to the airport. And she's so grateful because now she's got a car to take all of her heavy luggage to the airport. She gets to the airport and she meets the dealer. And the dealer says, great, okay, here's all the final paperwork and then we can hand over the money. And just as she's about to sign all the final paperwork, his phone beeps. And he takes the phone out in front of Mrs. Smith. And it's the mechanic who's been doing the inspection. And the message says, please tell me you haven't bought that car yet. And he responds, no. And he says, here's the list of all of the repairs that's required. And the list of repairs comes to 70,000 dirhams. Shocked, Mrs. Smith is between a rock and a hard place. She was about to sell her car for 150,000 dirhams. Her flight's in 2 hours. She literally has no other choice but to sell the car to the dealer. She believes that the car's got all of these problems, and why wouldn't you? She's been working with this guy for 2 weeks. So instead of getting 150,000 dirhams, he gives her 80,000 dirhams there and then. She signs the paperwork and he walks away 70,000 dirhams better off, because you can be rest assured that later on that night that same car is out on all of those websites or in the showrooms for 150,000 dirhams or more. This is a really easy scam to spot. If a dealer comes to you and says, yeah, we'll work with you all the way through to the day of travel, then be suspicious, okay? There are good dealers out there. The vast majority are. And if they are willing to work with you to do the inspection earlier, that's even better. But normally they'll say, we need to do the inspection just before you leave in case there's any damage between now and then, which seems reasonable. But of course, there is another option. On the day that you're traveling, you can go to sell unsuspectingyourmotors.com. You can book a time to go to any of our locations. You'll get a quote within 30 minutes. If you like it, we'll pay you cash there and then. And if you don't, no hard feelings. All right? So there are always options when it comes to selling your car. But beware of the dodgy scammers out there. There's many of them. And we'll look forward to seeing you again in episode 3 of Shocking Stories from Unsuspecting Sellers.